The year is 1996. For many around the world, this is a time of hope and ambition. A future plagued by nuclear warfare seems to now be a concern of the past. The Soviet Union had crumbled, and the new millennium seemed propitious. Although change can instill hope, there's always a level of uncertainty that must be accounted for. CIA officer John Clark voiced his worries about the latter. Clark expressed his concerns of navigating a post-Cold War climate, pitching the idea of a new unit that would carry the safety of the world going forward. A NATO response team that can be rapidly deployed to terrorist situations. He wrote the following memo to the CIA. There is good news and there is bad news. With the demise of the Soviet Union and other nation-states with political positions adverse to American and Western interests, the likelihood of a major international confrontation is at an all-time low. This, clearly, is the best of good news. But along with that, we must face the fact that there remain many experienced and trained international terrorists still roaming the world, some with lingering contacts with national intelligence agencies, plus the fact that some nations, while not desirous of a direct confrontation with American or other Western nations, could still make use of the remaining terrorist-free agents for more narrow political goals. If anything, this problem is very likely to grow, since under the previous world situation, the major nation-states place firm limits on terrorist activity. These limits enforced by controlled access to weapons, funding, training, and safe havens. It seems likely that the current world situation will invert the previous understanding enjoyed by the major countries. The price of support, weapons, training, and safe havens might well become actual terrorist activity, not the ideological purity previously demanded by sponsoring nation-states. The most obvious solution to this probably increasing problem will be a new multinational counter-terrorist team. I propose the codename Rainbow. I further propose that the organization be based in the United Kingdom. The reasons for this are simple. The UK currently owns and operates the Special Air Service, the world's foremost, that is, most experienced, special operations agency. London is the world's most accessible city in terms of commercial air travel, in addition to which the SAS has a very cordial relationship with British Airways. The legal environment is particularly advantageous, due to press restrictions possible under British law, but not American. And finally, the long-standing special relationship between British and American governmental agencies. John's pitch would go on to gain backing from the CIA director Ed Foley, and eventually get approval from President Jack Ryan. Clark's idea would become a reality. The organization is officially formed, operating from Hereford Base, United Kingdom. John Clark is placed in command of the unit with the simulated rank of Major General, as well as the codename of 6. The organization's name? Rainbow. With the team now greenlit, Clark needed to bring together the world's best specialists who will operate as one under Rainbow. The first would be Clark's son-in-law, Domingo Chavez, commonly referred to as Ding. The two would become close during their time together at the CIA, partaking in joint operations alongside Jack Ryan, and allowing Chavez to meet his now wife, Patricia Clark, John's daughter. Chavez would be given the simulated rank of Major, as well as being the leader of Team 2. Former SAS operative Colonel Alistair Stanley would be placed as the second in command of Rainbow under John Clark, by the codename of Rainbow 5. In alignment with Clark's vision, Rainbow would spread its reach globally, and the initial roster would be formed. With such a diverse range of specialties and skills, operators would be appropriately assigned different roles that best suited their strengths. Rainbow's assault specialists would be Santiago Arnavisca from Spain, Daniel Bogart from the United States, Andrew Burke from the United Kingdom, Carl Hader from Austria, Timothy Hanley from Australia, Renee Raymond from the United States, Jörg Walter from Germany, and of course Domingo Chavez from the United States. Roger McCallan from Canada will be the team's demolitions expert, and Antonio Maldini from Italy, as well as Ayana Yacobi from Israel, would be the team's recon specialists. Now, with Ubisoft's timeline differing from the original book, which released at the same time, there is a bit of a difference with operatives. However, based on a conversation which takes place in Rainbow Six Vegas, operators such as Peter Covington and Tim Noonan are referenced and name-dropped and therefore made canon in this universe. Some of the other operatives from the book could potentially be canon as well, but since only Noonan and Covington were name-dropped, for now we'll leave it at them. Covington was also the leader of Team 1, with Chavez being the leader of Team 2. If any of the other ops from the book do get name-dropped in the future, we will of course update it accordingly. All of them would begin their training at Hereford Base, initiating the dawn of Rainbow. In the birth of the new decade, Rainbow's operatives have settled into the team well into their extensive training. Meanwhile, not too far from Hereford, members of the British neo-Nazi group Free Europe would masquerade as employees of a catering company and gain access to the Belgian embassy in London. Embassy workers would be taken hostage, with the Belgian ambassador Gilles Duquette known to be in the building. There would be an attempt by police to take control of the situation, but the standoff would be escalated after the hostages appeared to be in imminent danger. Due to conflicts between British and Belgian intelligence on who should handle the situation, the duty would be given to Rainbow, where they would be deployed for the very first time. John Clark would give the following briefing to the operatives, highlighting the importance of the operation.
Looks like we've got our first real job. The Brits would love to send in the SAS, but the word from Brussels is no way. And London says the same about the Belgian ESI. I don't have to tell you that we're going under the microscope on this one. There are folks on both sides of the Atlantic who still aren't convinced that there's any need for a group like Rainbow. Take your time and study the situation carefully before you light the fuse. If we blow it the first time out, they may just shut us down.
At 5 PM, operatives would be deployed to the scene under the guise of being British government forces as to maintain Rainbow's anonymity. Entering the embassy grounds via the front gate, operators would surround the building, infiltrating via side entrances, as well as utilizing fire escapes to gain access to upper levels. Every floor would be swept and cleared, making sure that every hostage was accounted for. Hostiles would be neutralized with precision and utmost safety for the civilians trapped inside. Ambassador Duquette would be found on the second floor and be swiftly escorted alongside the others to a police blockade at the front of the embassy grounds. With all hostages extracted from the building and the perpetrators neutralized, Rainbow would be quickly extracted from the scene, and police would maintain the area and face the media questioning. Rainbow's first operation was a success. Two months following the successful operation in London, Rainbow's expertise would be called into action once more. A World Health Organization research station located in the Congo has been overrun by Hutu rebels. Hostages would be taken to an abandoned colonial villa on the outskirts of the rebels' camp. The workers, who mainly include American and European nationals, had been studying the roots of a famine that had struck the Congo River basin. This famine escalated the conflict that had been taking place between the government and the rebels around the city of Kinzingani. The research venture was being ran by the Horizon Corporation, an American biotechnology firm that had been operating since the late 70s. Known for manufacturing a multitude of products such as the anti-cancer drug Proacteron and the Hemzyme line of synthetic human antibodies. The company would be known for its corporate generosity, donating sizable sums to programs that help homelessness and other environmental causes. This would be spearheaded by the company's CEO, John Breitling. Six would once again brief the team on the specifics of this operation, as well as introducing them to Breitling.
You made quite an impression on the Belgians during that embassy takedown. They're insisting that we handle this situation in the Congo. Horizon is the darling of the biotech industry, wildly profitable with a strong activist streak. I'll let their CEO, John Breitling, fill you in on their activities in Africa. The bottom line for us is that the leader of their research team is a VIP named Catherine Winston. High-ranking friends at NIH, WHO, dinners at the White House. You get the idea. It's absolutely essential that if you get anyone out, that it's her.
We're not in the Congo to turn a profit. We're there at the request of the World Health Organization to see if we can come up with a cure for the epidemic that's been decimating West Africa's cattle population. Now you have to understand, Horizon doesn't exist to make money. Horizon exists to make a better future. If people think we're crazy, well, that's their problem.
Due to the dense foliage which surrounded the villa, Rainbow's only entry would be a small clearing in the trees a short distance away. The operators would be inserted via helicopter and proceed to the rebel-held area. Before they could reach the villa, surrounding rebels would be confronted and neutralized, allowing a safe perimeter to be established. The decaying building would become the final stand for this small cell of rebels. Once again, it's very important that Rainbow is conscious of the civilians inside the building and have to work with precision. As one of the teams enter the interior of the building, another enters the basement via an outside exit where a hostage is found. As operatives continue to push their way through inside, the upstairs is carefully swept until it is cleared. This is where Dr. Winston is found, and Rainbow escort the hostages back to the clearing in the trees, where the helicopter extracts them. International news would report that this situation played out differently than what truly occurred, with the American embassy in Kinshasa claiming that it was a peaceful release of hostages initiated by the rebels themselves. With Rainbow still in its infancy, potential geopolitical complications were to be avoided, especially when domestic conflicts were involved. With the relief workers and Dr. Winston safe, Rainbow was gaining momentum. Another 2 months will pass from their previous operation. Dr. Winston had recovered from her ordeal in the Congo and would begin to work closely with Rainbow. During this time, the American oil giant Petromech, a company that controls upwards of 30% of the world's known crude oil reserves, had a situation unfolding at one of their oil rigs in the North Sea. A radical environmental terrorist organization, known as the Phoenix Group, had attacked and taken control of the Petromech drilling rig. Not only has the crew been taken hostage, but explosives have been planted around the entire structure. The group would notify the British government about their intent to blow up the rig unless their demands were fulfilled. Because of the severity, Rainbow would once again be called into action. For the first time since its inception, Rainbow would deploy another operative onto the field. An American explosives expert whose thesis on the topic is considered to be a landmark in forensic analysis of bomb debris. His name? Gerald Morris.
Good work in the Congo. The word is Dr. Winston is completely recovered from her ordeal. Security's running a background check on her. Since she's already aware of our existence, we might as well put her to use as an advisor. Given the current proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, I'm afraid we may need a biohazard expert. Be sure to read your dossier on the Phoenix Group. These guys are serious fanatics. Apparently their agenda calls for the complete destruction of modern society. They see themselves rising from the ashes to build some sort of environmentalist utopia, hence the Phoenix bit. If they get even a hint that you're on board that rig, they'll set off the bombs.
At 5:30 AM, Rainbow and its latest recruit were deployed via inflatable boats at the base of the rig. Stealth was of the utmost importance. One wrong move and the rig would blow. Once departed, staircases would be utilized to reach the upper sectors. A mix of ladders, walkways, and different entry points would introduce a unique structure for Rainbow to traverse. Phoenix Group members disguised as oil workers would return gunfire to operators whilst protecting their explosives. Hostiles would be neutralized as hostages are discovered on the rig, as well as the explosives. Once the area was secure and the perimeter was safe, McAllen and Morris would disarm the explosives, whilst the team escorts the Petromech hostages away from the site. The hostages are escorted to the top of the rig itself, where they are exfilled alongside Rainbow by a helicopter. Post-operation reports would once again attribute this to British elite forces, omitting Rainbow's name from official reports. It's claimed that there were minimal casualties and the group responsible may still be at large. With a new operator on the field, as well as Rainbow gaining their own biohazard expert, Operation Angel Wire was concluded. It's been almost 6 months since Rainbow's first operation. They've overcame different scenarios and obstacles, but the team was proving successful and effective. The Horizon Corporation was once again at odds with an adverse group. This time, the Colombian drug trafficker Ramon Calderon. Horizon's involvement with the Rainforest 2000 project had put them at odds with the drug lord looking to keep them off his territory. This project, which is an initiative by the US government to encourage private investment in the Amazon, had drawn prominent participants and investors such as Horizon, where they would construct and operate the Horizon Ark research station. This is a self-contained biosphere which replicates Earth's ecosystem. American and Brazilian construction workers have been kidnapped by Calderon's men, resulting in Rainbow being requested by the US and Brazilian authorities. The US Presidential Science Advisor is brought in to inform Clark about the scale of the US's operation.
Dr. Lang is the US Presidential Science Advisor. She and Mr. Breitling can fill you in on the details of the Rainforest 2000 project. Basically what we've got is a drug lord who doesn't like having a government installation going up in his backyard. The US and Brazilian authorities have asked us to shut him down.
Most of the trouble has been on the construction side of the Ark. That's the centerpiece of our whole operation. The Ark is designed to be an airtight, self-contained biosphere. The Earth in miniature, as it were. If we can learn to live responsibly in an ecosystem the size of a city block, maybe we can do a better job with the rest of the planet.
John has briefed me on your previous operations. Very impressive. As you are no doubt aware, the current administration has a strong commitment to environmental issues. Over the past 4 years, we've launched a number of initiatives that partner corporations with conservationists to encourage Earth-friendly economic development. The Rainforest 2000 project provides incentives for companies to develop sites in the Amazon River basin. Horizon has committed millions of dollars to build several state-of-the-art research stations to hunt for new pharmaceuticals in the tremendous biological diversity of the rainforest. Now, with the trouble this man Calderon has been causing, work has completely stopped. It's terribly frustrating to see an important project like this held hostage by a band of common thugs.
Operatives are inserted on a road a short distance away from Calderon's stronghold. The silent walk along the road is interrupted by the grand gates of the drug-fueled empire. Rainbow quickly swarm the area surrounding the stronghold from all sides. This may not be the first gun which Calderon's men have ever held, but even then they are no match for Rainbow's expertise. The building is fully swept until Rainbow push their way to the master bedroom, where Ramon is discovered and promptly neutralized. At the same time, operatives push into the basement where the hostages are also discovered. The area is cleared and the hostages are safely navigated outside, allowing Horizon's endeavors to continue uninterrupted. Later that same month, left-wing neo-Marxist terrorists would take several families hostage at the World Park Amusement Centre in Barcelona, Spain. With an active hostage situation at hand, another issue begins to present itself. The park was being monitored by a private security company called Global Security, who were also in charge of the Sydney Summer Games the following month. With over 40,000 employees worldwide, Global Security is one of the world's largest providers of private security services. Due to their involvement with the upcoming Summer Games, there is an emphasis to keep this situation on the low, as to not draw public scare with Global Security's later involvement with the Summer Games. With a complicated scenario as well as the well-being of hostages at stake, Rainbow is called into action. We'd also see 2 more operatives being deployed on the field for the first time, the first being Alejandro Noronha from Brazil, serving as an assault specialist, and Tracy Wu, a recon specialist from the United States.
Park Security is contracted out to a private company called Global Security. They're also handling security at the Summer Games in Sydney next month, so they want to keep publicity about this World Park incident to a minimum. The Spanish authorities and the park management feel the same way. This is a potential public relations nightmare for all of them. We go in, we get the kids, and we get out.
Operators make their way to the themed water ride in the park where the hostages are being held captive. The public areas of the attraction are connected via worker maintenance routes and backstage staff access, which Rainbow utilize. With large open rooms, water-filled floors, and bright colourful sets, this would be a rather interesting environment to navigate. This mission was their biggest hostage crisis so far, meaning that the stakes were as high as ever. Operators carefully make their way around the attraction, closing in on the hostiles. One wrong move and a hostage could lose their life. After the operators get in position from the rafters above, as well as closing in from the sides, the terrorists are carefully taken out, making sure not to hit any of the hostages who are in the close proximity. What was meant to be a fun day out turned into a horror show, which is now over. Despite this being a public incident, the media would not catch wind of this and there would be no news reports. With the hostages safe and the public scare avoided, Rainbow returns back to Hereford. The luxury of month-long breaks between operations was no more. Clark's concerns, which he vocalized all those years prior, were starting to become a reality. More groups were emerging frequently, and attacks were becoming more regular. The Phoenix group would appear on Rainbow's radar once again, this time seizing the Esztergom Dam on the border between Hungary and Slovakia. Armed with explosives and a threat to detonate, this was becoming all too familiar for the team. However, this time, things would be a little bit different. One of the terrorists, Roland Kunst, is willing to turn informant in exchange for his life and to presumably go free. If true, this would help escalate Rainbow's dismantlement of the Phoenix group. British recon specialist Kevin Sweeney, as well as German demolition expert Lars Beckenbauer, are deployed on the field for the first time.
The informant is a college kid named Roland Kunst, who's finally figured out he's in over his head. According to the limited information we've received from him, there's an American wing of Phoenix that we've never heard of, and they've gotten their hands on some sort of super germ. He says they're planning an action using this germ sometime next month. Whether the dam gets blown or not, we need Kunst.
I'm not going to pretend to give you advice on how to save a dam. After seeing how you got me out of that situation in the Congo, it's obvious you know what you're doing. This informant of John says he knows about a plan to release a biological agent into the general population. That's very scary. In 1979, a small, accidental leak of military-grade anthrax by the Soviets killed 68 people in the city of Sverdlovsk. Today, a well-orchestrated release of a bug like that in an urban area could kill thousands, maybe millions.
On a dark, overcasted evening at 2 PM, Rainbow is inserted via the side cave entrance of the dam. A small patrol of Phoenix members surround the exterior of the dam, but are easily neutralized as Rainbow begin to flood inside. The tight, dark hallways of the dam provide a maze-like navigational risk to the operators. Behind each corner could be an armed assailant. Operators split up across the dam, with the two focuses being to disable the explosives and extract Kunst. After taking control of the area, demolition experts successfully neutralize the explosives, and the Phoenix defector is found surrendering in a side stockroom. Kunst willingly goes into Rainbow's custody and is extracted from the area. The media would learn of this situation, and a spokesman for the Hungarian government claimed the Hungarian police special forces took back the dam by force. They would also publicly link this to the attack which took place on the North Sea 3 months prior. Rainbow would quickly work on the intel provided by Kunst, as just 5 days later, Operation Firewalk would be initiated. Roland's intel highlighted a Phoenix Group biolab being secretly operated in southern Idaho, United States. Lethal biological agents are presumed to be on the site, so regardless of how it's done, no one can leave that compound. This is a level 4 threat, meaning any breach to the integrity of the operator's biohazard suits could result in death. Rainbow now stands as the front line between the world's safety and biological warfare.
Our interrogators have finished with Mr. Kunst. This is much bigger than we thought. We've traced the laboratory supply house purchase records, and it looks like Phoenix has set up a Level 4 biological containment facility less than 30 miles from Twin Falls. God only knows what they're doing in there, but the US government has given us the sanction to go in and find out. It's not going to be a picnic. The only upside is that they won't be expecting you. If you're quick, you might be able to take them down without firing a shot.
I must urge caution. The only evidence we have that anything illegal is going on is the word of this Kunst character. I must say, hardly the most reliable of witnesses. Oh, please don't get me wrong. I have the greatest respect for Mr. Clark and this unit. But if any innocent civilians are injured in this precipitous raid, I'm afraid the White House will be forced to disavow all knowledge of your actions.
If this really is a Level 4 facility, you'll need biohazard suits. Level 4 means the agent is airborne, highly contagious, and very, very deadly. If the integrity of one of your suits is compromised in any way, then that's it. Game over.
Operatives silently breach the compound via a rear wall and begin to sweep the area. The intel from Kunst is indeed accurate, as the compound is not only swarming with Phoenix members, but the lab is fully operational and dangerous. Rainbow begins to truly see the twisted methods of the Phoenix group, as what seems to be human test subjects are locked away in cells. The on-site terrorists are exterminated, and Rainbow takes appropriate control of the facility. Just as John was going to call the operators back to base and debrief, they learn some bad news. Although the bioweapon lab is now secured, ringleaders of the Idaho operation got tipped off about Rainbow's imminent raid and fled. With no time to debrief and redeploy, John immediately orders the team on the ground to intercept the fleeing ringleaders at a nearby airstrip. For the safety of mankind, they must not escape.
There's been a security breach. Someone must have tipped them off. They knew we were coming. There's no time to redeploy. You're going to have to make do with what you've got. Good luck.
I knew this would happen. We've got a potential bloodbath on our hands. I'll manage the spin with the White House, but please, please try not to make matters worse. Good Lord, if this gets out, the press will eat us alive.
My God, I was watching the video feed. They were experimenting on people. It looks like they've taken all the biological samples with them. You have to stop them.
Just a few hours after the raid, the operators, who haven't had a chance to regroup, commandeer control of the airstrip. Luckily for Rainbow, the Phoenix group were also acting on borrowed time, and their resources were already depleted. The ringleaders would be easily overwhelmed by Rainbow at the airstrip, preventing the bioweapons from being transported any further. Although the operation didn't go as initially planned, the quick actions from both Six and the operators prevented any further catastrophe. News outlets would report that the gunshots heard at both scenes were related to a US agent raid of illegal weapon smuggling, and that everything was conducted under appropriate intelligence and safety. Both back-to-back operations were now complete, and the team had a chance to debrief and rest. Now, with some happier news in the world, the Sydney Summer Games would now already be underway, opening the previous Friday with over 11,000 athletes from 201 countries gathered in the Sydney Stadium. Over 100,000 spectators would be here for the games, with global security dedicating most of their resources to prevent a repeat of violence which occurred at the Atlanta Games 4 years prior. Despite the world enjoying the celebration of sport and the friendly competition it brings, this was no time for relaxation for Rainbow, as more attacks were beginning to unfold. 3 days after the raid in Idaho, the neo-Nazi group Free Europe would once again come at odds with Rainbow. This time, the group raided a celebration that was being held in Brussels to commemorate the launch of the new European currency, the euro. This celebration was taking place in the Central European Mint, the same place where the currency was being produced. Now, global security was once again involved with this mishap. with Six linking this to the amount of strain that is put on the company by the now underway Sydney Summer Games. The US government would also place some sanctions on Rainbow after what happened in Idaho. Despite this, Dr. Winston would make some discoveries on what was found during this raid, and what she finds is truly terrifying. Rainbow would now ramp up its efforts, introducing 2 new assault specialists, Kazimira Rakuzanka from Poland and Gennady Filatov from Russia.
This is another global security screw-up. They're spread too thin. They've got all their best people in Sydney for the opening ceremonies of the Summer Games, and they're neglecting the rest of their operation. Glorified rent-a-cops. The US government's not happy about Idaho. Pending an official inquiry, our sphere of operations is restricted to Europe and the Commonwealth. The only thing that saved us out there was quick thinking on your part. Good work. Dr. Winston's in our lab at Hereford, analyzing the virus samples you recovered. We've got a lot of unanswered questions. What is Phoenix's target? Where did they get the virus in the first place? Who put up the funding to build that lab complex? Who tipped them off that we were coming? We need answers, and fast.
I've run some preliminary tests on the samples you brought back from Idaho. The results aren't good. It resembles Ebola Brahma, the filovirus I was studying in Africa, but somehow it's managed to jump the species boundary and attack humans. You saw what it did to those poor people they were testing it on. Within a week of exposure, you'll get fever and convulsions, followed by rapid necrosis of all the major organs: brain, lungs, liver, stomach. We call it crashing and bleeding out. It's a horrible way to go. If this bug gets into the general population, it'll be like the Black Death on a global scale, a pandemic, hundreds of millions dead. This isn't a virus, it's a doomsday device. I'm sequencing now. Once I get the results back, I may be able to figure out how Phoenix managed to get hold of an agent like this.
Rainbow enter the premises of the occupied building, now draped in a Free Europe banner, through the police blockade at the front gate. Even whilst this is all happening, the currency is still being produced inside, whilst the hostages are held in the production room. The main foyer presents an open, exposed, and dangerous space for the team to enter, as another make their way through a back garage entrance. The 2-story building is cleared by the teams, and just like in their first ever operation, the Free Europe members are no match for the expertise of Rainbow. Belgian police and the ESI would be publicly credited for this operation. With all terrorists killed in the assault, police speculate this may have broken the back of the organization, and Free Europe is no more. Global Security declined to provide a comment on this situation, with their focus still being on the ongoing Sydney Games. This, of course, is a huge success for Rainbow, but the fight isn't over. Although Free Europe has been defeated, the Phoenix Group still pose the greatest threat. With one less distraction, and the findings by Dr. Winston that the Phoenix Group were experimenting with what seems to be the Ebola Brahma virus, it's time to focus all efforts on stopping them once and for all. Now, with Rainbow fully focused on the Phoenix Group, there still remains a large unanswered question. How did the group know that Rainbow were about to raid their Idaho operation? Who tipped off the ringleaders right before it was initiated? Suspicion could be thrown at Kunst. Perhaps his mutiny was part of their plan. Still, why would they not flee in the 5 days Rainbow were preparing for the raid? Why would Kunst give up their secrets to begin with, if not genuine? The idea that Kunst is still aiding the Phoenix Group simply doesn't make sense. It has to be someone else. Clark knew something wasn't right, and his suspicions were validated when Dr. Winston would be kidnapped from her hotel room where she was staying ever since Rainbow brought her to the UK to act as their advisor. With her involvement with Rainbow only being known by a select group of people, the mystery behind the entire conflict was about to blow open.
We've been betrayed again. There's no other way Phoenix could have known that Catherine was working for us. Fortunately, they botched the operation. They killed a passing patrol officer when they made their getaway. Scotland Yard trailed them to Southampton, but given our knowledge of Phoenix, we've been tapped for the actual takedown. It's imperative that you bring Catherine back alive. Before her disappearance, she was on the verge of cracking this whole thing wide open.
Just before midnight, Rainbow would track down and board the Orca Smile freighter, which was anchored in the Southampton harbour. Harbour Patrol has blockaded the vessel to prevent it from sailing forward, but the Phoenix members aboard have planted explosives and are threatening to destroy it if they are not allowed to leave. Despite this, the explosives are not the main concern of the mission. It's far enough from civilian areas that in the event of an explosion, it would cause no public harm. Silently freeing Winston without alerting the terrorists is Rainbow's main job. Clear the ship before it potentially explodes and get out of there. The upper decks would host a number of hostiles that would need to be taken out as to ensure a safe extraction for Winston. Navigating the tight and compact interior, Rainbow begin to make their way to the lower levels, which open up from packed rooms to larger stock and supply areas. A small out-of-the-way ladder provides entry to the engine room, where Dr. Winston is being held. Time is of the essence, and the team immediately bring Dr. Winston to the upper deck, where they are all extracted. With Dr. Winston once again safe, everything was about to become much clearer. Rainbow's intelligence, on top of Dr. Winston's accounts of her kidnapping, has implicated Anne Lang, the US presidential science advisor, as the primary source of the leak. Six worries that this could have greater implications, with Horizon and John Breitling even potentially being involved too. Clark assumes personal control over the operation going forward. No one can be trusted. Due to the Orca Smile freighter exploding after Rainbow's extraction, news outlets are informed that Catherine Winston died on board, providing a cover story to buy Rainbow some time as they investigate. The team need to find more information and discover if Horizon, Breitling, and Lang are truly working with the Phoenix Group. 6 initiates Operation Yellowknife, introducing the new electronic specialist role into Rainbow. Alain de Barry of France and Annika Lofquist of Sweden would fill this new role in Rainbow. Their mission? Sneak into Lang's home in Alexandria, Virginia, bug her phone, and get out without being noticed. The use of deadly force is not sanctioned on this mission. Lang would currently be prepping for a 4-day tour of the Rainforest 2000 project to assess its progress, for which she'd be leaving in 3 days' time. Her home is being patrolled by US government agents and guards. It's imperative that they are not harmed or alerted. As well as this, Dr. Winston had continued her research on what was found in Idaho, and another breakthrough was made.
I never trusted that woman. And Horizon is involved too, maybe even John Breitling himself. Until we know exactly who's on our side, I'm assuming personal control of this entire operation. Our cover story will be that Catherine died on board the Orca's Smile. That should buy us some time.
The bug doesn't just resemble Ebola Brahma. It is Ebola Brahma. It's a modified version of my cattle virus they're using. I figured it out the night I was kidnapped. The genetic sequences are virtually identical. I called Anne right away and told her that Phoenix must have a source inside Horizon. She told me not to contact anyone else, that she report to John and send a car for me. 30 minutes later, the brute squad was kicking down my door.
Under the cover of night, Rainbow sneak their way onto the premises from the back wall. After slipping past the guard by her back patio, a back door is utilized to enter the garage area. It is here where a small room at the bottom of the stairs contains a panel to access the home security system, which is subsequently deactivated without the knowledge of the guards. Now that the security system is down, the operative makes their way through the house. Slowly and carefully, the operative pushes their way through the upstairs area, making sure not to be seen by any of the guards. Lang's office is just at the end of the upstairs hallway. After sneaking past the guards and getting into Lang's office, her phone is subsequently bugged, and the operative, with the same level of care, navigates their way outside of the home, leaving no trace behind. With the bug now planted, all Rainbow can now do is wait. After the bugging of her home, Anne would return back to her premises, where she would make a phone call to John Breitling, confirming Rainbow's suspicions. Both her and Breitling had been conspiring together since the 70s. Breitling was using the fortune of the Horizon Corporation to fund the Phoenix Group, whilst Lang would cause political interference and help protect Horizon from any scrutiny. It's even believed that the test subjects that were found in the Idaho lab could be linked to John Breitling's homelessness programs, which aim to assist homeless people in inner city environments. However, it seems like there was a malicious intent behind this, kidnapping them and using them as test subjects. The more Rainbow we're finding, the more sinister it was becoming. Not only this, the modified Ebola Brahma virus will be released in an unknown location in just 4 days' time. With a potential man-made pandemic imminent, this was a critical situation. With absolutely no doubts that Horizon and the Phoenix Group are now linked, operators are once again deployed on a non-lethal silent mission. This time, to infiltrate the Horizon Corporation's central computer system at their HQ in San Francisco.
We've got the goods on Anne. Last night we taped her on the phone with John Breitling. Apparently they've been conspiring since the 70s. He's been secretly bankrolling Phoenix while she went underground to run political interference. The modified Brahma virus is scheduled to be released in 4 days. We still don't know where or why, but Breitling obviously expects it to produce the pandemic that Catherine predicted. Anne left this morning for Brazil, ostensibly to tour several Rainforest 2000 installations, but more likely to go underground before the pandemic starts. We'll deal with her later. First, we need to find out exactly what's locked up in Horizon's central database.
After being quietly deployed on the roof a few hours before the morning rush, the operators utilized the elevator shaft to proceed to lower levels. Due to the building's security cameras monitoring the staircases, the building's security panel will first have to be located and disabled before the staircase can be used. After descending down the shaft, the main foyer of the HQ is presented. With Horizon guards monitoring the area, the team wait for their opening and sneak by the unattended front desk, where they find a side room which holds all security for the building. With the security panel now deactivated, the other team on standby can now utilize the staircase and slip into the upper hallway. Sneaking along the hallways as well as bypassing the deactivated cameras, Breitling's luxurious office is found at the end. The team slip in, access his computer, downloading all of Horizon's files, and once again leave without leaving a trace. Returning back to the roof where they are extracted, the information gathered here will show more than just the Horizon Corporation at play. The intel retrieved from Horizon's HQ reveals something truly devastating. The Phoenix Group are planning on releasing the modified Ebola Brahma virus during the closing ceremony of the Sydney Summer Games. With the games bringing together thousands of people from around the world, and a virus that can take up to a week to show symptoms, the attendees were about to become super spreaders of the pathogen. Not only this, the intel gathered from Horizon's HQ informs Rainbow that global security has been compromised at the highest level. The true extent of this attack is becoming larger with each passing day. With Lang and the rest of Horizon currently operating in Brazil, and the Summer Games happening in Sydney, Australia, Clark makes the strong decision to separate the team. There is simply not enough time for them to travel between the two countries. Both need to be working in unison across the globe. Global Security's head of operations, William Hendrickson, who goes by Bill Hendrickson, has been implicated in the Phoenix Group's plot. After Hendrickson would be put on leave by Global Security due to substance abuse, he would meet a young woman called Terry Quaid, who was an employee of the Horizon Corporation. The meeting between the pair was engineered as part of a general plan by the Phoenix Group to co-opt members of the international security community. It seems like the two would form some kind of relationship, but how genuine it was, we may never know. The operators which have been deployed to Australia have been tasked with intercepting a global security convoy and bringing Hendrickson in for questioning.
We've got to move carefully. We don't know what triggers the release, or exactly who in GS has been compromised. If they catch even a whiff that we're onto them, they may release the virus prematurely. If that happens, we'll quarantine. But I don't consider the entire city of Sydney to be acceptable losses. Think hard about who you want in Australia. I have a feeling we'll also need a team in Brazil to deal with Anne and the Horizon crowd, and there won't be time to fly people back and forth.
The closing ceremonies. It's brilliant and monstrous at the same time. An entire stadium full of people, most of them scheduled to board international flights within 12 hours of exposure. By the time the first symptoms manifest themselves a week later, Brahma will have spread to every corner of the planet.
In the late afternoon, the team in Australia travel along the river running opposite the road where the convoy is traveling. It is here where they create a fake blockade using an empty HGV as to stop the convoy and intercept. With operators hiding in the water and others perched on an overseeing ridge, the convoy passes the road and stops at the blockade. It is here where the global security members exit their vehicles and in unison are all taken out by the operators. All except Hendrickson, who immediately surrenders and is escorted by the team. With Hendrickson now in their custody, they push along the road, encountering more of the convoy that was following behind. Both sides are met with gunfire as Rainbow continues to push to their extraction point with their hostage. The last few remnants of this motorcade face off at a small overpass as Rainbow continue to push down the road, encountering the last two vehicles. After the entire convoy has been dealt with, Rainbow reach their extraction point and they take Hendrickson in for questioning. Running in parallel to Hendrickson's interception in Australia, the Brazilian team are briefed on Operation Black Star. Rainbow learned from their infiltration of Horizon files that Anne Lang is planning to fake her abduction by the Phoenix Group as to give her a reason to go into hiding before the Ebola Brahma virus is unleashed. Six orders the team to intercept this fake kidnapping, and to bring Lang into their custody. Clark also learns something important about Calderon and the Horizon Arc.
Remember Calderon, that drug trafficker we took out? Anne set him up. There never was any trouble between him and the Rainforest 2000 people. That was a Phoenix Group smokescreen to hide their real plan, using Rainforest 2000 as a cover to build a sanctuary to survive the pandemic. The Horizon Arc isn't just an experiment in building a self-contained ecosystem. It's a bomb shelter for biological warfare.
In the later hours of the morning, the Brazilian team travel upriver via boat where Lang is being held. The embarrassing theatrics aren't humoured by the ops. They enter fast, not giving the captors a chance to fight back, and take Lang into their custody. Other VIPs who were with Lang during this trip were also being held on site. The terrorists were waiting for reinforcements to arrive before killing them and moving Lang to a safe location. Luckily, Rainbow stopped these VIPs from being caught in the crossfire of Lang's operation. With the clock still ticking, one head of the operation has been captured. It's time to stop the rest. Back in Australia, the team on the ground learned from Clark that Hendrickson has been thoroughly interrogated and revealed information about the bomb plot. The bomb, which consists of two containment vessels, a timing mechanism, and a high-frequency sonic vaporizer, will run for 30 minutes until the vessels are empty. The plan is to release the virus in the air circulation system in the athletes' village. With this information now known, the team in Australia has been tasked with disarming the explosives that Hendrickson has located. Detection can result in disaster, so the team must act as covert as possible. With hundreds of scenarios resulting in a detonation, Six cannot emphasize the importance of this mission. Anne Lang also reveals her motives behind the whole operation.
Our interrogators have finished with Hendrickson. We got the locations of the devices out of him, but we're running out of time, and we still don't know who's been compromised inside GS. We don't dare evacuate the village. Even that might be enough to trigger a release. That's why we're sending you in covertly. Get your people in place, and take out all the devices simultaneously. A lot of lives are riding on this one.
Why? You want to know why? Isn't it obvious? You don't treat the symptoms, you treat the disease. There's only one real solution to the problem of pollution, and that's to get rid of all the people.
In the early hours of the day of the closing ceremony, the team enter the ground of the athletes' village via the underground sewer system. It is here where Phoenix members, dressed in global security gear, are found and taken out. Multiple staircases guide the ops to the main floor, with large open rooms and corridors connecting them. All bombs must be deactivated simultaneously, so the operators split up across the different sections. Innocent cleaners and workers are still operating inside the village. so it's important to make sure they do not get put in harm's way when dealing with the Phoenix Group members patrolling the area. Once the terrorists were dealt with without any alarms being raised, the teams get into position. The first deactivates the security system, followed by the simultaneous deactivation of the virus-based bombs. The team carefully maneuver their way around the explosives, making sure not to catch anything that will trigger a detonation. Each team radio in the all clear, they take a step back, and the bombs are deactivated. With the successful neutralization of these bombs, the grand scheme to release the virus at the Summer Games was over. Rainbow had prevailed and humanity was spared. With the capture of Lang, Hendrickson, and now the successful prevention of a global catastrophe, it was time to end this. Once and for all. John Breitling learns that his plan has failed. He has lost. The team in Australia was successful, but the team in Brazil had one last job. Breitling and the final remnants of the Phoenix Group have fled to the Horizon Ark. This is their last stand. The team in Brazil has been tasked with taking control of the Ark, neutralizing any standing occupants and rescuing those who have surrendered. Horizon records show that the final amount of the virus is still contained here, and it may have been released into the self-contained ecosystem of the Ark. The team are briefed, provided hazmat suits, and Operation Mystic Tiger is a go.
Into the lion's den. Breitling's in there, hiding deep in some bunker. There's no telling what he might do if we try to wait him out. Kill himself, kill his followers, make an attempt to expose the Brazilian troops to the virus. The decision's come down. We're ending this now. Good luck, and Godspeed.
According to the Horizon records, the only remaining cultures of the virus are stored at the Ark. They must be destroyed. We've got a full biohazard team standing by waiting to go through the whole complex with a fine-toothed comb once you give the all clear. I still can't believe John Breitling is behind all this. One of the reasons I went to work for Horizon was that it seemed so much more humane than other corporations. I never imagined my research would be twisted into something so horrible.
The Brazilian team enter the Horizon Ark. The structure itself contains multiple different biospheres, all of which connected by long hallways that in themselves contain even smaller pods. Breitling's location is unknown, and Rainbow aren't leaving empty-handed. Many Phoenix members willingly surrender to Rainbow, knowing that they have already lost, whilst others put up a short-lived fight. After Rainbow sweep all of the pods, neutralizing the remaining hostile members and securing the ones who have surrendered, Rainbow find themselves funneled into the central pod, boasting a large open hole with a main staircase built into the terrain behind it. The final members of the Phoenix Group continue to try and push back Rainbow, but they are running on fumes. The central staircase leads to 2 levels, both of which must be cleared before Rainbow can safely proceed. With the team splitting up and taking both floors at the same time, they eventually push towards Lab 3. With the entire facility cleared and nowhere left to run, Rainbow close in on Breitling.
Fire in the hole! Alpha, go. Advance. Bingo, bingo! Objective complete.
I see the cavalry has finally arrived. Those guns won't be necessary. I'll come quietly. You haven't won, you know. The industrialized world is already doomed. I was just hastening things along a little. You picked the harder road. Instead of having it all over in a few short weeks, now we're going to be around for the long, slow slide. Runaway global warming. Crop failures, mass extinction, death. The handwriting is on the wall. At least my way, the animals would survive. The plants. 100 years from now, there won't be a creature larger than a rat alive anywhere on the planet.
Well, it's all over now, but the mopping up. An army of investigators from a dozen different agencies is crawling all over Horizon and GS. By the time we're done, we'll know everything about their operation down to the underwear sizes of the janitors. The Australian government is officially referring to what happened at the Athletes' Village as a bomb scare. I think they're afraid the truth would cause a panic. The White House is deep in damage control, but it's still hard to put a positive spin on the fact that one of your senior advisors was a terrorist mole. For us, it's back to business as usual. There are still plenty of bad guys out there. You knew when you signed on with this crew, there wouldn't be any parades or medal ceremonies, but I want you to know that you deserve all that and more. It's been an honor working with you. Okay, enough of that. Clark out.
Well, that was the entire lore of Rainbow Six 1998, but we're not finished yet, as this game got an expansion pack known as Rainbow Six Eagle Watch. Now, chronologically, the 2002 PlayStation exclusive game Rainbow Six Lone Wolf takes place between Rainbow Six and the Eagle Watch expansion pack. However, that will be self-contained in its own video, and I will include it between Rainbow Six and Eagle Watch when I make my chronological video later down the road. But for this video, we're focusing on Rainbow Six and its expansion pack, Eagle Watch. Now, importantly, Eagle Watch introduced 4 operators to Rainbow, all of which making their first appearance from the Rainbow Six book. With the operatives being Homer Johnston from America, Eddie Price from the United Kingdom, Louis Loisel from France, and Dieter Weber from Germany. This expansion also includes 5 unrelated missions, all being standalone, and having no overarching story. That being said, here are the 5 operations from Eagle Watch. It's been almost half a year since Rainbow foiled the bomb plot against the Sydney Games, and the team have continued to fight terror across the globe. Rainbow had proven themselves to be everything Clark envisioned and more. Due to the strong reputation they had built, their expertise would be called into action more than ever. Meanwhile, in Kazakhstan, a situation would begin to unfold at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. This once dormant launch pad would now be the focal point of the recently reactivated project of the Russian space shuttle known as Buran. Despite its success, the project would end up going dormant due to the lack of funding and the turmoil in which the Soviet Union was going through not long before its collapse. Well, thanks to international funding as part of a worldwide space exploration effort, the project was back on the books. Everything was operating as intended, until what was assumed to be shuttle workers would seize control of the launch pad, taking an international crew hostage, whilst threatening to destroy the payload of the shuttle, as well as killing the hostages. Intel would find that the hostage takers were actually a part of the radical Islamist terrorist group known as Bothra, which stands for the Brotherhood of the Higher Realm Army. The duty of rescuing the hostages and neutralizing the captors has been given to Rainbow. Gabe Daniels, the retired chief engineer of Launchpad 20C at Florida's Kennedy Space Center, is brought in as an advisor to assist the team with navigating the launchpad.
Apparently, the Tangos got onto the launch pad disguised as workers. Israeli and Japanese satellites are in the payload bay, and some of the crew is being held hostage. There's the potential here for a major international incident. Take your time, and watch your backs.
I'm glad to try to help you people out, but this is a tough situation. There's only one way into the shuttle from the pad, and that's by way of an entrance ramp. If they're holding our guys on the flight deck, you're gonna have a heck of a time getting in there.
Rainbow, alongside their new operatives, make their way onto the launchpad. Due to the scale of the structure, enemy locational data was unable to be gathered prior to deployment. However, thanks to the information provided by Daniels, the team were not going in fully blind. As the operators navigate the large Soviet structure, the once cancelled project presents itself, towering over the launchpad. Not only does it represent the fall of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, it also shows a new path forward for mankind. The Bothra terrorists swarm each level of the launchpad, with the team spreading out and taking down the radicals. Once the area had been fully cleared, the hostages are found and escorted away. A spokesperson for the Russian government would reveal that there were minimal losses, and that this attack was the first Bothra had struck outside of Pakistan. Investigations are underway as to how they passed through security undetected. Nine days later, Rainbow would visit one of the wonders of the modern world, but it wouldn't be for a sightseeing trip. Radical Sikh separatists would storm the Taj Mahal in India at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whilst the building was swarming with tourists. The group would plant explosives in the historic building, as well as taking tourists hostage. The terrorists are demanding the formation of an autonomous Sikh state within India, in exchange for the lives of the hostages. Highly regarded political speaker and professor of East Indian political studies at UCLA, Akbar Jahan, will be brought in to advise the team on this mission.
Intelligence indicates that the group holding the Taj are Sikh. This attack is probably retaliation for the Indian government's assault on the Golden Temple in '84. Remember that the Taj is a national monument as well as an art treasure, so try to keep the collateral damage to a minimum.
The level of violence is particularly high in India right now. The Sikhs have been fighting the army since the 1980s, and lately the battle has been going against them. This latest attack is clearly a desperation measure, not that there's any consolation to the poor devils with the guns pointed at them.
3 hours after the incident began, Rainbow are deployed on the roof of the building. The operators descend their way down the historic landmark, with the care and precision Clark urged them to operate with. Silenced weapons ensure the terrorists are not alerted of their presence. The hallways, that would usually be filled with nationals from all over, are now empty as the gunmen hold down the area. Hostages are found during Rainbow's progress through the still occupied building. The team continue to push through, making sure not to do anything that will cause the explosives to be detonated. Eventually reaching the ground floor, Rainbow neutralize all remaining hostiles, allowing the hostages to be safely maneuvered outside whilst the building is swept for explosives. Indian officials claim that this was the latest in what has been called an all-out war on the Indian government by radical Sikh organizations. Reports would also confirm that there would be light civilian casualties and structural damage to the building was still being assessed. A week following the incident at the Taj Mahal, another major landmark would become the grounds for a devastating attack. Radical Irish militants, a part of the Nomar group that push for Irish independence through violence, have stormed the British Houses of Parliament in London, taking several international dignitaries hostage. The gunmen have moved the hostages into the Westminster Clock Tower, commonly known as Big Ben. Police would block off the area, and that is when they are informed by the terrorists if their demands are not met by midnight, an explosive will kill the hostages as well as destroying Big Ben itself. London Task Force Commander of MI5 Counterintelligence, Randolph Crane, is brought in as an advisor for this operation.
The SAS would love to take these guys down, but Downing Street's pushing European unity this week, so we got the nod instead. Make it clean and quick. If we botch this one, it'll set the Irish peace process back 10 years.
Nomar is one of the last and most vicious of the IRA splinters. They're tough and they're professional and they know what to expect from fellows like you. They won't make mistakes, so you can't afford to either. We've got a real chance to build a lasting peace in the British Isles, and we can't let a pack of mad dogs destroy it.
Rainbow begin their assault by gaining entry into the Parliament buildings. Blood is spilled in the very same room Britain's top politicians debate and decide the future of the country. As their advisors informed them, botching this mission could set back peace negotiations significantly, so success was imperative. As the operators continue to navigate the Parliament chambers, they gain access into the clock tower. This now presents a grand staircase with a path all the way to the top. However, they must carefully navigate their way forward, as there is a heavy presence ahead. As the team reach the top of the clock tower, where Big Ben himself hangs, the final group of terrorists attempt to hold Rainbow back. But their resistance is futile, as their final breaths are drowned out by the chimes of Big Ben. The VIPs are safely secured, and in the space of a week, Rainbow have prevented the destruction of 2 worldwide landmarks. To the surprise of Clark and many others in the West, the the Chinese government has requested aid from Rainbow. The Kang Revolutionaries, a Chinese Muslim ethnic group concentrated in the Xinjiang province of far west China, have kidnapped international tourists at the Forbidden City in the heart of Beijing. After the Chinese government's failed attempt to intervene, with 2 out of the 8 hostages being killed, they have uncharacteristically asked for Rainbow to take control. Curtis Look, a Chinese national who left the country in the 70s due to political persecution, and would go on to become a decorated professor in Seattle after graduating with a PhD from the University of New York, would be brought on as an advisor for this mission.
This is the biggest opening we've had since Tiananmen. China wouldn't be asking for help unless they were ready to make a serious attempt at improving diplomatic relations with the West. How we perform in getting these people out will affect the Asian political balance for years to come.
It's hard not to sympathize with the Kang revolutionaries. Ultimately, they have the same agenda that the West does, a freer and more open China. They just have a very different idea of how to bring it about. Strangely enough, the Kangs may win in the end. The Chinese government is tired of being a pariah state and is obviously signaling that it's ready for a change. A clear show of international cooperation could set the stage for a new era of human rights advances.
Rainbow touched down in China. The team enter Beijing and into the historic Forbidden City. They immediately come in contact with gunmen. A patrol of guards are protecting all entry points and must be dealt with. Perched on towers above are members overlooking the grounds. However, this allows for an exposed shot for Rainbow to exploit. As the teams begin to enter inside the structures, the close-knit hallways create dangerous corners for the teams to clear. Each building is entered and cleaned until hostages are found at the top floor of the historic structures. The hostages are rescued, and a huge step in international relations with China has just been achieved with the success of this mission. Observers would note the strange usage of American and European gear, with Rainbow's involvement and their existence remaining hidden. After their ringleader was recently captured by US authorities, Japanese terrorist group Red Sun Brigade have occupied the Senate wing of the US Capitol building in Washington, D.C. 2 hostages, including a US senator, are being held in the main Senate chamber. The terrorists have also planted explosives in the offices. They are demanding the release of their leader in exchange for the hostages. After already killing a security officer, further losses are to be prevented. The CIA counterterrorism advisor, James Dolan, who has been tracking this group for months, is brought in as an advisor for this operation.
These guys are Cold War throwbacks, genuine international communists. It seems the FBI stopped their ringleader on the New Jersey Turnpike last week hauling enough explosives to take out a couple of city blocks. He's in jail awaiting trial, and they want him out. We're going to make sure that he stays right where he is for a good long time.
The Red Sun Brigade has been making trouble for the Japanese since the 1970s, but they only got the funding to go international a few years ago. We've been tracking their movements for the last few months, and it looked like they were prepping for something more covert, most likely a bomb detonation in the New York City area. We never thought they had the firepower to pull off an assault like this.
In the early hours of the morning, Rainbow passes through the police blockade which had cornered off the area. They make silent entry into the Capitol without the terrorists knowing. The connecting rooms create a fork in their path, allowing different ways for them to flank, but also to be flanked. The now blood-stained carpets of the hallways mask the footsteps of the operators storming the building. Libraries, waiting rooms, and offices are all inspected and cleared of any terrorists. As the team continue to maneuver through the hallways, they eventually find one of the explosives in a side room. Once deactivated, they continue to ascend their way through the Capitol. It is here where more terrorists are met with gunfire as Rainbow begins to gain control. After they make their way into the main chamber, the hallways no longer echo of gunfire. The final terrorist is defeated, and Rainbow once again secure their hostages, and no further lives were lost. With that conclusion, that is the entire lore of Rainbow Six 1998. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. I spent a lot of time making it. I wanted to perfect the script, I had to do the voiceovers, I'd done all the editing. It was an absolute blast from start to finish. It's a bit bittersweet now being done, and I want to thank some people as well. So I want to thank everyone who contributes to the R6 wiki. It's very helpful for grabbing information as well as preserving it, especially when stuff's on older hardware. It's really good for preservation. I want to thank Ghost Viking USMC. He contributes a lot to the wiki, and all the gameplay in this video was also from him as well. I'm not very good at the older games. I've played through them all plenty of times, but he is really good at them, so I wanted to give you guys the best gameplay to go along with the voiceover. I also want to thank Otter Filthme and Red the Fett, two R6 lore nerds who I'm always interacting with on Twitter. I had them look over my script just to make sure I wasn't getting minute details wrong, so I really appreciate them. And I also want to thank two of my viewers, Monty God as well as Temp. Both of them reviewed an early draft of this video for me, which was very helpful. And of course, I'd like to thank everyone who worked on Rainbow Six back when this project was being developed. I wouldn't have anything to talk about if it wasn't for them. So a massive shout out for making such a fun game and an interesting story. And of course, shout out to the man, Tom Clancy. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, comment your favorite part, and sub if you haven't already, since we're going to be covering the next game as well. Also, if you would like to financially support the channel, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member. It allows me to make more video projects like this, but just subscribing for free helps me enough. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.